And ideas. You've just crossed over into the Twilight Zone.
Hello, I'm Thomas Carruthers.
I'm Jay Reith.
And today we continue our Twilight Zone-a-thon. We are in our second block of 10 episodes. And just like all of these podcast ventures, what began as something that would maybe last 6 months or so is prolonging by the year. But that's okay, because it means I get to spend more wonderful time with the wonderful Jay. How are you, Jay?
I'm good. I'm back at you.
Good, yes, and me. We continue. We just talked about Static, which is a fine episode, I ranked it somewhere quite low on the best of series 2, I believe. However, there isn't such an episode called a Stop at Willoughby, which is in many high-ranking lists, very very high ranking. And
yes,
Stop at Willoughby is interesting because we've made it quite clear that our joint favorite episode. Obviously, I've watched every episode. You've watched a major amount, and slowly but surely watching all these with me now.
Yeah,
top 50 at least. And both of our favorites episodes is Walking Distance, which is the story of a miserable, depressed businessman who finds solace in a idyllic small American town. And this is a story that, by his own admission, Serling has returned to on multiple occasions. However, that story can end in a variety of different ways and can be told in a variety of different ways. And I personally feel that there is enough different, particularly with the ending,
yes,
to make this feel of a piece, and actually the sort of perfect example of variations on a theme. Jay, was this an episode that you'd seen before, or was this a first watch, and what was your experience with?
This is the first watch. Yeah, it was very fun. The similarities with Walking Distance were pretty apparent very quick. But I would say that they're very different in terms of, I guess, ending and character, and I say, I don't know, the message, I guess.
Most certainly, yeah. I mean, not to ruin, well, these are spoilers, I guess, it did come out in 1959, but the Walking Distance is a story about a man coming to terms that possibly the grass isn't always greener, and he should bring the nostalgia of his past and what he loved about his past and bring that to the present. And not to jump straight to the ending, but A Stop at Willoughby is certainly not that ending. This is an episode written by Serling and directed by Robert Parrish, who would also direct One for the Angels, the second episode actually of the show, with the wonderful Murray Hamilton, who is Murray Hamilton and should be known as Mr. Robinson from The Graduate. Did I offend you personally? I can see you very well. I've been sat here in the dark for some good time. However, most people know him as the mayor from Jaws. And of course, what's your go-to Jaws quote? Because it should be something like, "I'm going to need a bigger boat." However, I often quote more than that. "I'm not going to have the little kitten boy spilling out on the dock when you do a half-assed autopsy on a fish."
Well, mine is still the bigger boat one. Sorry.
No, it's all right. I'll give you. They're all going to die. I love Jaws. Jaws
is great.
The original story of this, the original draft of this story was actually once considered for the pilot episode of the series, but eventually rejected. And I can see it. Because in many ways it is your ideal Twilight Zone episode. It's got a good twist, quote unquote, and it's got a lot of the sort of more human drama that I think true fans adore, and that's what they come to the show for. But a lot of the genuine human drama that kind of gets lost in the sort of pop culture view of the show. Of the show. Let's continue with this walking distance similarities thing, and then we can kind of move away from that. But Tony Albarella, in his commentary on the episode, he said that Martin Sloan and Garth Williams are effectively the same characters. And when the episodes are combined, the two scripts paint the full picture of a man's exodus into the past. And I think I mentioned it on a previous episode. There's also, of course, The Trouble with Templeton, which is another, which kind of actually melds the two even further, because in that you've got the past pretending that things aren't good to make him leave, which is a very touching episode. Very, very high concept, actually, when you think about it, that I think is pulled off in a pretty great episode, Trouble with Templeton. And here's another. I had another one. Here we are, Serling. Every writer has special loves, certain hang-ups, certain preoccupations and predilections. In my case, it's a hunger to be young again. It's a hunger to go back to where it all began. And I think you'll see this as a running thread through a lot of the things that I write. Yes.
I love that he definitely talks like he does in the narration.
It's all very refreshing.
Yeah.
Nothing makes more sense than the fact about how he wrote some of these, which was dictated by the pool. And then I was like, okay, this makes complete sense. Associate producer Del Reisman on the episode. Serling wrote so many stories about people trying to revisit the past or revisiting it or being thrust into it. Those stories were deeply meaningful to him, whether it was Gig Young going back to the carousel in walking distance or the small town of the past in A Stop at Willoughby. There is a kind of yearning to go back to a simpler world, a world that made sense and had order to it, to the kid growing up. We all think about our days of going to the Saturday matinees and all of the simplicity of that. And that's the key statement, isn't it? Is that to a child, the world seems simple. And obviously, Serling is of a generation where his childhood was pre-war. And because obviously, I think you could say very much the same for a child now, living through, I don't know, the pandemic or any of the other atrocities we've got going on in our world. I don't think a lot of children necessarily have a nostalgia. I don't know. I'm trying to formulate something here, but is there the idea of the perfect nostalgic childhood, Jay? I think, well, no, I take all this back. Of course there is.
No, I mean, everything seems a lot, I don't know, the world seems bigger. Everything's like years last longer when you're a kid and everything. And I think you're definitely saying something that makes sense in terms of this episode, because like one of the first things that Gart kind of fixates upon is, oh, there's the kids and they go fishing. And they're not wearing shoes. Yeah. I was like, okay.
Yeah. That is, we often talk about things that were cut from the stuff, and I wish there was an edit of the script where during his big speech with his wife, he goes, I just want to go fishing with young boys. And he goes, wait, sorry, say that again. I just love all those old-timey bikes. And he goes, no, the thing about the boys, the thing about the fishing. Gart, the thing about the fishing, Gart. This is James Daly as Garth Williams, who does a sensational performance here in his one and only Twilight Zone. And I mean, it's a shoo-in. It's so very easy to compare him and Gig Young as Martin Sloan, but they're both very, very good with that sort of that worn, drawn, the weight of the world upon their shoulders, and just the weight of it's that's another thing that's different from Walking Distance, and I think this episode has to do it because of its chosen ending, and for the chosen ending to not feel desolate and in many ways glamorizing, in that it shows in a way that Walking Distance never does the terrors of his real life, like the just the lot of his life, the job, the misery.
Push.
I mean, his boss's name is Mr. Miserable. I mean, it's a syllable away from miserable. Yeah. The wonderful Howard Smith there.
I mean, how long is it into the episode before you even see Willoughby? Like, because it feels pretty long.
It's on his first way home. So we get the snap in the office, and then he's driving. He's on the train home, and then we get this Willoughby, and
Willoughby,
that's
Willoughby.
It's only a flash. He doesn't. I believe on the first time around, he doesn't even get up from the chair, and he's just looking through the window, and it's sort of, and he's talking to the conductor, and the conductor's doing the immediate exposition. Let's just get this out of the way. Why is Willoughby outside? Why is it sunny? Oh, well, it's July 1888. And, you know, if I have criticisms of this episode, it's that we don't necessarily need that. We don't need to know that it's 1888 specifically. I can tell like just everything that's going on. It's a little bit, he can't trust us. I mean, because he does the same thing in Walking Distance, where even though we've had a litany of things where we're like, we know now what's happening, he still has the ending of the ad break be, why, that's a Chevrolet from 1938. I'm like, okay, we get it, Rod. We're in the past.
I think we've gone back in time.
Yeah. And so I wrote this of the episode. I rated it very highly, actually, when it came to the my initial season 1 rankings. One of the most upsetting episodes of the show, and perhaps one of the most ghostly poignant. This Serling penned and Robert Parrish directed tale follows James Daly as Garth Williams, a businessman who simply cannot go on in the life that he's currently leading. On his train rides home, he gets a glimpse in his brief dreams of a simple town going by the name of Willoughby, a perfect and idyllic place, literally and conceptually the place of Williams' dreams. Another one of Serling's all-time favourites, this episode has an overall sense of pain about it, but also ultimately it's an episode about finding peace. Although the message of the episode could be constructed as giving the exceptionally wrong ideal, it's a beautiful and elegiac exploration into a man's loss of faith in a world and where a man goes where he has nothing else in life. Garth Williams finds peace, Serling gives him it, giving him it in the only place that he truly can, in the Twilight Zone. I guess, I don't know where you want to talk about it. I think we can put a pin in the conversation because there is the third, like, it is undeniable that as beautiful as this episode is and as haunting as it is and as great a twist as it is, and as brilliant as everybody is in it, if you were to completely simplify this episode, or even not even simplify it, just look at it, it's saying suicide is the right option.
Yeah.
Which is prickly stuff. And I don't think Serling is a writer who is using it as a cheap twist. I think there is something in there. But it is incredibly prickly, material. And, I mean, we don't talk about depictions of suicide in the modern era. I mean, I'm not saying that kids are going to fire up a Stop at Willoughby on Netflix, but, you saw all the increase of stuff following 13 Reasons Why and all that stuff, the glamorization of suicide in the media. And it's not even surface. Sorry, it's complete surface level. If you have a miserable life and you want to kill yourself because you will go to a better place. Like Willoughby. How did you take it all?
I don't know. I don't know. It was an odd ending, I guess.
Yeah.
It wasn't, obviously there's a twist. You see Willoughby and Son.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know. It's not a twist that made me go, "Ooh, that's twisty," or "Oh, that's a big twist." It was like, "Oh, okay."
It's kind of upsetting. It's like
and also the fact that you don't see him like happy in Willoughby or anything afterwards. So it could have just been all in his head the whole time.
Yeah, he just heads off.
Yeah.
Hello, Mr. Williams.
Which I think makes the ending interesting.
It makes it interesting. Yeah, no, it's a very interesting depiction of Willoughby. It's neither haunted or overly. Well, it is overly idyllic by design, but the ending is, good. Hello, Mr. Williams. And he's walking around town. Like you say, he never cuts back to him still happy in Willoughby. The final image we see is of the Willoughby and Sons funeral parlor cart, which is a great, twist. And I had a terrible book of ghost stories that I found a cheapo bookstore, and I thought it looked old and cool. And I was with my ex, and I just, I'll read one. Would you want to read one of these tonight? And it was it was something about like a guy saw his shadow on the street, and then the end of the story, he got hit by a car or something, and then his body fell in the exact place of the shadow. And she said, and I remember this, she was like, "That was dreadful. I could have written that, and that's the sort of thing I would have written in GCSE English." And I do kind that Jenny, for all of us, for all of her sins and joys, always is at the back of my mind when a twist is sort of not necessarily is sort of what's the term, inevitable. Because I think there is an inevitability and a tragicness and a sadness and an upsetting poignancy, like I said in my article, that overhangs this episode, rather than it being a gotcha or a oh wow, Willoughby wasn't real overall. He was being called to kill himself. Yeah.
He was abducted by aliens the whole time.
We begin with the episode waiting for young buck Jake Ross. Great name.
Yep. Now I thought when the episode started that this young buck had killed himself.
Yeah.
But no, that was the end of the episode.
No, he could have done a
he just didn't show up. Very
Mad Men, Jay, isn't it? It's wonderful. They're talking about an automobile account, and
Absolutely.
I was like, oh, how exciting.
Yeah, I mean, I saw, didn't Matthew Weiner, I don't know how you pronounce his last name.
I think it's Weiner, yeah, go for that.
Weiner. I'm pretty sure he said that this episode was an inspiration.
He loves Twilight Zone. He's said he's talked about it many, many, many times, and he specifically, Walking Distance and A Stop at Willoughby. I mean, it's on. I mean, but so obviously we watched Mad Men after the time it first came out, and I remember, and then I googled like how's Mad Men going to end articles after seeing how it ended and looking at all of those theories, and there was so many people who thought it was going to end with Don's suicide from a building, and then
I know because of the opening
credits. And so if it did end that way, I mean, it's incredibly Willoughby. It's not that. I mean, in a sense, it is kind of Willoughby. He finds his idyllic peace, and I mean, there's many, but any image of a miserable businessman who repeatedly heads into dream worlds to escape his miserable nature. Howard Smith is great as Mr. Miserable. Howard Smith is great as Mr. Miserable, smoking his huge cigar, and like you say, push all the way down the line. Push. This builds and this builds and this builds, and I think it's very interesting. And then we get this, fat boy, won't you shut your mouth?
Oh my God!
That's what you think. Surely you think, oh, he's going to get fired. No. And for me, the big sort of twist and why he's so miserable is that he's not fired. Yeah. And that, there is no point to his petty rebellions because they will go nowhere. There's another version of this episode where that is the triumphant final moment. And then he steps outside and breathes fresh air. And he's like, I'm going to become a new man now. I'm going to get a happy job. Yeah, but no, he doesn't care. And he's back in because it's a lot, because the odds of him leaving the cog, his cog leaving the machine, far outweighs just letting him have one angry outburst. He can be his little bitch for a smaller fee.
Yeah, his footstool.
Yeah. And then this sort of continues, and he's got this stomach ulcer. Oh, sorry, go on.
Oh, no. You go on first. We'll get to it.
He's got his stomach ulcer that he's constantly probing. Have you ever had a stomach ulcer, Jay? I've had mouth ulcers, but
I don't think I have, and I don't think I want one.
No, they just sound absolutely atrocious.
Sound abysmal.
And he goes to see his receptionist. And do you need anything, Mr. Williams? Yes, a sharp razor and a diagram of the human anatomy where all the arteries are. And again, very well written, because on a first watch, funny line, but it's the sort of thing that, experiences of suicide and, people in their lives. And it's those sorts of jokes that, a 10 a penny, we all make them or whatever. And then, but that will, once the receptionist finds out about Mr. Williams's death, that's going to stick with her forever. Of like, should I have done something? Was he actually telling me that he's going to kill himself there, or was that just black humor? Very effective. And then we get this beautiful shadowed side profile, and we get the opening narration. This is Garth Williams, age 38, a man protected by a suit of armor, all held together by one bolt. Just a moment ago, someone removed that bolt, and Mr. Williams' protection fell away from him and left him a naked target. He's been cannoned this afternoon by all the enemies of his life. His insecurity has shelled him. His sensitivity has straddled him with humiliation. His deep-rooted disquiet about his own worth has zeroed in on him, landed on target, and blown him apart. Mr. Garth Williams, ad agency exec, who in just a moment will move into the Twilight Zone in a desperate search for survival. And then we get this train. And again, I'm getting Mad Men flashbacks of Pete and Don traveling back to their homes. And it's this, you know, very, again, just great visual filmmaking from Parrish. That snowy November on the train, the big black squares that you know, span out. I'm looking at one right now, a window, just with nothing in it, just blackness of night. And that soft snow. And it's just such evocative, beautiful imagery. And then we get Willoughby. So the first time we went to Willoughby, what was your immediate reaction? What did you where did you think the story was going from that point?
Well, I thought we'd stay there longer. For one, I thought it would be okay, we're in Willoughby now, and he's stuck there. But I don't know where it was going. I didn't know when we cut back. I wasn't sure if we'd see it again, or if he would just become obsessed with this tiny little vision he had of the place.
Well, it's like it's only until he snaps back to reality. Whoop! There goes gravity. But you know, when he snaps back to reality, that we realize what the structure of the episode. Well, no, until the second time rather, when we realize what the structure of the episode is going to be, and obviously when he says the very expositional line, "Next time I'm going to get off. I'm going to get off in Willoughby," and you're like, okay, so this is what the story is going to be. He needs to leave the train.
Yeah.
And is that going to be a struggle? Is that going to be? You're thinking so much about the logistics of this world of fantasy or sci-fi or whatever that it never crosses your mind about the actual real life possibilities of Willoughby not being real. And then we come home to the wonderful Jane Williams, played by Patricia Donahue. What are you going to do? What's your plan for the evening? Get plastered and sing old college songs. And there is, I guess, the Twilight Zone trope of the incomparably evil wife.
True.
There is no more evil wife, obviously, than Time Enough at Last.
Yeah.
Why don't you read me some of it? And she's ripped out and covered all of the pages of poetry. The most evil person ever on a TV show.
Yeah.
People who hate Skylar would love the Twilight Zone. People who hate Skylar White, or I never understood. I can people who hate Skylar or Betty or Shiv.
I didn't know people hated them until I don't know. I started looking at the internet.
Well, I have terrible taste in women, so the idea of anybody hating Betty Draper is just like baffling to me.
Yeah.
Somebody who dated a Betty Draper for 3 years, it's very, very realistic to me.
And then she started shooting pigeons.
Oh, what a woman! Just sign me up. Unhinged ex-model who shoots pigeons. I'm not stupid, you know. I know Italian. Oh, love Jenny Jones. But I, to be honest, I think this is really well written dialogue. She has to be a shrew because you've only got 25 minutes. But I think there's a lot to it, you know. And you know, with a wife who has an appetite, and where would you be without my appetite? And I think Patricia Donahue does a great job at playing it uncartoonishly.
I don't know.
Yeah,
it's definitely believable. Like, all the way.
And again, like I say, 25 minutes. And we get even, I mean, again, it's taking away her voice, but we get a million times more understanding with that first, later when he rings her, you know, Jane, and you're like, okay, she's out. Yeah, all right. Crazy boy who wants to go marry. Go play fish.
Yeah.
You know, and then, but again, she gets the last word in that state because again, I mean, I recently just rewatched Flight Club, and you know, Marla Singer, just the most tragic character of all. You know, oh wow, aren't you tired? What the fuck are you doing here? It's like I'm here to, you know. When you think about Marla, and when you think about Jane Williams, you know, I want to go to Willoughby. What? You've just lost your job. My friend just called me, and you want to talk about Willoughby? Great, you know, where a man can really slow down. It's like fantastic. Move. What do you want me to do? Yeah. Okay. Is this a place we can move to? No, it doesn't exist on any train line.
No, you just got to jump off a train.
Yeah, you got to. Oh, okay, great, fantastic. Can't wait, Gart. And then she goes, "Why did I marry a man named Gart?"
That's all right because he'll die in about 2 days.
T-minus 5-10 minutes. Just my luck to be married to a man whose big dream is to be Huckleberry Finn. Great line. And then we get the conductor who comes and goes, I couldn't find any Willoughby. And so we get that confirmation that it's a sort of fictional world. And then we get another slow reveal into Willoughby. He puts his head back. And then it's never, you know, flashy. It's always, you know, just next up, you know, Poughkeepsie, or Willoughby, and it's just soft. And, you know, both conductors do such a great job. But James Maloney, as the 1883 conductor, just has such a beautiful smile and sort of warm nature. And obviously that's, you know, directing and performance and by design to make Willoughby, you know, as beautiful as it is. But it just such a wonderful job. And then we get the, you know, the line, you know, Willoughby, next time I'm going to get off at Willoughby. I'd break. And then he rings everybody, and more stress from the sponsors, and, you know, and then he rings his wife and she doesn't even answer. And then he gets on the train, and the first thing is that he leaves his suitcase behind. A lovely small touch. And he gets off the train with ease. And there is whether it's him finally being ready or whether it's the past accepting him or something, because every other time the train has set off before he's been able to. It's not that he hasn't it's not that he hasn't wanted to get off the train. It's that the past hasn't let him. And that's, I find, very interesting.
Yeah, true.
Now the train has finally stopped and won't move. And whether that is willpower to go through with what he's gone through in the real world, he gets off. And hello, Mr. Williams. Hello, Mr. Williams. And the boys with the fish, you know, I think tomorrow I might join you in playing Beautiful Dreamer on the bandstand, which is just incredibly evocative beyond the, you know, an evocative piece of music beyond the simplicity of the name, obviously, of Beautiful Dreamer. And then, hello, Mr. Williams. Hello, Mr. Williams. And then we're back to the snow, and we're back to the sludge. And it's, you know, poor fella, he just jumped straight off. He was screaming something about Willoughby. Died instantly. And they, you know, and then Willoughby in some funeral home. And that's that. Jay, what was your initial reaction?
I don't know. I was like, oh, okay. And I think it was did I miss a line where the people that work at Willoughby and Sons went, wait, he was shouting what?
Yeah, true. No, that's not in there. I love you so much. I never thought about that. He was what? Sorry, he
was shouting the name of our funeral home. How did he know? How did he know that it was us?
Maybe he was down there. Maybe they were down there already, and they were like,
"Yeah,
what was that? What? Hello? Did you somebody say Willoughby?"
And they just come up.
Yeah. Or maybe they repainted the back of the van.
Mm-hmm.
It was like,
no. Oh God,
yeah.
heavy twist. Maybe Maybe it was a demon from a.
Oh yeah, no, I'm very glad that we didn't. The Willoughby and Sons is enough. We don't need then. Well, it's been a family business for years, and he turns to the camera and it's the conductor. We don't need any more. We just have.
Oh yeah. God,
because there's enough there to glean whatever reality you want. And go from there. And then we get Serling. Willoughby, maybe it's wishful thinking, nestled in a hidden part of a man's mind. Or maybe it's the last stop in the best design of things. Or perhaps for a man like Gert Williams, who climbed on a world that went by too fast, it's a place around the bend where he could jump off. Willoughby, whatever it is, it comes with sunlight and serenity and is a part of the Twilight Zone. Which, I don't want to throw Serling under the bus here. Could have been, I think that could have. He's written in such beautiful words before. I don't know. I think that's kind of taking the easy road out of that ending.
Yeah.
And it's saying like, what is Willoughby? Maybe it's heaven. Maybe he's a dream. Maybe he's alive. Maybe not. Maybe he did kill himself. And I don't know. I think that could have been quite a poignant monologue. It's still better than anything I will ever write in my entire life. But there is something there. The Buck Houghton interview, who produced this episode, he was saying how they shot it on the Metro backlot, and it was built presumably for Mimi in St. Louis. He said that I thought all the actors did very well. I thought the wife was chilling. I thought the boss was chilling. All the things that bore down on this man. And he was saying that you're talking about famous TV executive Fred Silverman. And he said, I dare say you could show that to Fred Silverman and he would say, where the hell is Willoughby? So there is, there is something to it of just in its simplicity and its punch of 25 minutes of, we've all had terrible days of work. I've never contemplated suicide after a terrible day at work. I've been very, well, anyway, but that misery and that drudge, it does a wonderful job at relaying all of that. Whilst playing into, of course, all of Serling's other famous themes. And he ended, this was in his final interview. So he's even literally talking about this in his final interview, which was published in Writer's Yearbook in 1976, in response to the question of what era he would like to live in. If I had the means, I think I would like to be Victorian times, small town, bandstand, summer, that sort of thing, without disease. I think that's what I would crave, a simpler form of existence. When you walk to a store and stand a front porch, that's what I think I'd like to do. Rock the rest of my life. And in a sense, wouldn't we all?
We can tell.
Yeah, you're a rocker, Rod.
Yeah, rocker Rod Serling.
That is our 18th episode, Jay. I'm sending you the current ranking that we have, and let's see where we want to put Stop at Willoughby in. I'm currently looking. I think it's better for me than on a rewatch. I think it's dropped for me. I would say it's probably better than People Alike All Over. I would probably put it around the 12 spots for me personally. Or does this beat?
I think I'd agree.
Yeah, I don't think it's beating For Chance to Dream.
No.
Another episode about a miserable businessman who goes to an ideal. You've got the polar opposites.
I think at the end of this we can go through and look at all the episodes that have miserable businessmen that want to live a better life.
Well, I've like literally. Is it called a Stop at Willoughby? It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I've always said, and there are two prevailing themes of Twilight Zone, and many other things come in and out. But loneliness is pervasive, and I think the past is pervasive. More, I would say, than the future. Pop culturally, the Twilight Zone is seen as such a futuristic sci-fi show. But when you break it down, I mean, what's the name of the episode where the guy goes back to try and stop the Lincoln assassination? It's basically 11/22/63. But he's stopping Lincoln, and the whole time he's been talking to a guy with a mustache, who reveals himself in the end to be Booth, and it's a fun episode. But there's a lot more about the past necessarily than the future. And you know, somebody could write a very good book, and I presume somebody already has. What's next? Our next Twilight Zone, our next trip into the Twilight Zone is going to be, I believe we are going to meet Mr. Bill Shatner with The Nick of Time. He is in a small town diner with his wife, reunited.
Oh my God.
And he's in a small town diner with his wife, and there is a fortune-telling machine that is telling fortunes. And
I may have seen this when I was a child.
It's a great episode. It's a great episode.
I feel like I remember
it's
Bill Shatner in a small town with his wife.
It's one of those that is like, this is a kind of subpar average episode, and then the final thing happens, the final whatever, and you're like, oh no, that you landed, you really landed the plane there, buddy. You really landed the plane. The Nick of Time is wonderful. Jay is wonderful. And the Twilight Zone is wonderful. Thank you very, very much, Jay.